Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WildWeiler Weekly Wrap. As always, I am WildWeiler. As you all may know, I was out last week, but despite this week also being a holiday here in the US, I will wrap with you. So let's get started. In an effort to broaden my horizons, I walked into the nearest Total Wine and More to buy some liquor that was new and weird to me because that's what I have going on. I like to challenge my tastes and my experiences, and, just getting weird foods. I shouldn't say weird now that I think about it, but getting different foods from cultures that I'm not particularly the most familiar with because they're not my own is one of the ways I like to do that. And this time I found the national liquor of Thailand, Mekhong. Interesting to me, Mekhong is marketed as a Thai whiskey, but if you look at its sort of distilling process and its ingredients, you find out that it's actually a rum. It is 95% cane sugar and 5% rice, so that definitely makes it a rum. Additionally, it's steeped in local botanicals that are native to Thailand, which gives it a very unique flavor, but more on that in a second. Mekhong's origin comes from a 1914 nationalization of a distillery by the Thai government. Its popularity increased over the decades, especially as prohibition in the United States disrupted the existing spirit trade that existed at the time. By the 1940s, we really start to see the liquor that we know of today as far as Mekhong is concerned. All of this information was found both in the Michelin Guide and on Wikipedia. On the tongue, Mekhong is a different experience than any other spirit I've ever tried, which is to say, with most spirits, there is a balance between flavor and bite. And when the flavor hits you and when the bite hits you is varied from liquor to liquor. Like, that's where you get differences in, say, vodka, tequila, whiskey, bourbon, which is just whiskey again, and scotch, which is just whiskey again. Everything is whiskey if you try hard enough, and I'm not even going to talk about rum. Mekhong instead hits first with a subtle, light flavor, and then nothing. It's bizarre. It's surreal. It's weird. There is no real bite to it. It is confusing. And I kind of really like it because of that. Just because it's so different. It's so unique. It's an incredible experience that I don't know how to describe. And now I have only literally recently opened the one bottle I bought and only drank it really twice, but I don't know what to do with this. Like, it's not a familiar experience. So I guess it's time to, pull up a cocktail guide for Thailand and see what we can make. If you're a person who drinks and is looking for a new experience, go to your nearest Thai restaurant, none of which are sponsoring me, and see what Mekhong cocktails they serve. Trust me, I think you'll like it. Over the past 2 weeks, I found a game so unique in its setting and gameplay. I bought it after watching a 30-second YouTube video, and this game is HighFleet. Full disclosure, so far I am garbage at this game, but I love it. HighFleet is fundamentally a resource management game with occasional brutal high-stakes airship combat. As for its setting, imagine, if you will, the late 1980s. Now, build massive, heavier-than-air airships out of steel, ceramic plating, and all that good stuff that makes ships indestructible now these days. Now, power these airships with compressed methane, in what I am now going to call methane punk, apparently. So once you have all of that, big mech-like airships that are powered by compressed methane and made out of steel and ceramic composites, now imagine all the people themselves are wearing plate armor, carrying swords, shooting at each other with revolvers, while all the officers run around like they're still in World War I. Did you get all that? That is so freaking awesome. That is like my ideal aesthetic. Like, if you could just put a knight in a mech, and then that mech in just a slightly bigger mech, then you have a, sort of onion of mechs, if you will. And it's cool, I guess. The interface is chunky, the combat is floaty. At the core, the game is a roguelike. You will die over and over and over again, and sometimes in confusing ways that the game does not make clear, but that's okay. Because unlike other roguelikes, which I bounce off of incredibly quickly, because failures in most roguelikes to me feel like poorly optimized features, poorly optimized enemies, poorly optimized goals, or a game that is too reliant on its random number generation to actually give you a chance unless you get a good seed. This game doesn't feel that way. Every time I've died, I felt like, oh, I could have done this different. I could have learned this different. In a weird way, the game's logic is inscrutable in a way that seems fair. And I absolutely love that. I am loving HighFleet so much. I will stream this at some point in the near future, but I do want to get a little bit better at it before I stream it. And since it's a roguelike, I got to get a few more runs under my belt because I don't want a stream that's just me figuring out this very complex game. But please stay tuned for that because I am so excited to share HighFleet with all of you. Last week, I watched Netflix's new action movie, The Union, starring Mark Wahlberg, Halle Berry, and J.K. Simmons. J.K. Simmons was the reason I watched the whole movie because I saw him in the trailer and I was like, man, Counterpart was so good. If you haven't seen Counterpart, you need to see Counterpart. I'll do a whole thing on Counterpart at some time. It's not the best movie. I guess nobody was expecting it to be the best movie. It is a Netflix release, but it's not entertaining in a meaningful way, and I'll get to that. Let me put it this way. It is less entertaining than Mark Wahlberg's other direct-to-Netflix movie, Spencer Confidential. That's the other big Mark Wahlberg movie on Netflix that I know of. There isn't anything particularly wrong with the acting or even the plot at sort of a high level, although you can figure out the twist in the opening scene pretty easily if you're familiar with generic action movies and paying attention. The problem is all the individual scenes in the movie are loosely connected at best. The movie treats missing your friend's bachelor party with the same dramatic weight as the plot MacGuffin itself falling into enemy hands and being used for evil. The biggest problem I have with the movie is its weird fetishization of the working class. And I don't mean that in a literal sense of construction daddy play and daddy's home and needs you to rub his feet or something like that. I mean that in the way that the secret spy agency that Mark works for and Halle Berry is there and J.K. Simmons is also there only recruits from blue-collar workers because they're the only people who really know how to get work done. And while I understand that sentiment, this always rubs me wrong in movies because it feels like the multi-million-dollar version of calling a fast food employee essential and then denying them healthcare and letting them get killed by COVID-19. And that just feels bad, and it feels like that's what this movie is doing. The other thing that particularly annoyed me about this movie is just how pointless everything is in the grand sense. The movie itself has no real plot beyond what if blue-collar spies? And that's kind of really it. And while I don't think every movie has to have a deeper meaning, I think it's easier to not have a deeper meaning if your setting and your setup and your premise and your plot points all build to something novel and entertaining. And if your movie doesn't have that, you need a meaning. You need something. And the weird thing is there are some movies that do both. And I have a couple of examples of action movies that are a little bit novel, are a little bit different, have a bigger meaning, and these are going to surprise you for the most part. Number 1 on this list, Quantum of Solace. The lesson in this movie is if the ultra wealthy can make a resource scarce, they will do so and then ransom that resource back under the threat of violence. Number 2, Mad Max Fury Road. Women are often seen as valuable not because of who they are as people, but for their base utility of being able to produce offspring. Number 3, Zardoz. Yes, Zardoz made the list. Zardoz is all about not acknowledging the suffering of those who toil to support your lifestyle does not excuse you from participating in their suffering. And number 4, finally, John Wick, which is simply seeking revenge destroys that which was not taken. The Union could have made a point about the careless way society treats its essential workers, like I did at the beginning of this very segment, and call out our wage priorities as being a little messed up when you really think about it. But it doesn't. The movie doesn't have really a larger point other than generic spy movie slop, poor flow. Literal individual scenes may feel like they're kind of tied together, but then other scenes are just completely out there and either boring or like, why are we caring about this bachelor party B plot? Or why are we caring about this really weird shoehorned in like romance thing? The Union has earned every point in this sad 3 out of 10. That does it for this week, but before I go, let's see what you all got up to in the comments section. In reference to my YouTube short where I mentioned my imaginary fabric store, like you wouldn't come shop at Wild Fabrics because I'm a software engineer. You want somebody who knows something about fabrics. Bacchus Diem replied, I, for one, would love to see what patterns and textiles you have in Wild's fabrics. Well, friend, if you head down to Wild Fabrics right now with a copy of our Labor Day flyer, you can get this Wild Fabrics Fuzzy Fresh Peach shirt for 20% off. In response to the GTA Online segment of my last weekly wrap, Beersum said, GTA is certainly one of the games of all time. At some point, you hardly even play the game. It's like you're looking into my soul, friend. I don't even know what's going on in that game anymore. Last time I played, I shouted at my friend to dive the submarine, rotate 15 degrees to port, and try to get a missile lock on a plane that was doing a bombing run of our hidden underwater fortress. So that's happening, I guess. Originally, I wasn't even going to say anything about this comment, but I'm not going to sit idle while bad information gets spread, especially in the comment section of my own videos. So, in response to my COVID-19 weekly wrap, where I said I had COVID-19, at NLYS27 said, how are you still getting COVID-19 5 years later? If you never got vaccinated or booster shots, then you have permanent immunity. And none of that is true. I don't know how you get a permanent immunity if you didn't get vaccinated, but that's also not how the vaccine works. And here's the very important thing. Don't take my word for any of this. I am literally a dog on the internet. If you want information, ask your doctor or your nation's health service about what the best options for you are in your region. Do not trust random dogs on the internet. I cannot stress this enough. I am taking the next couple of days to film my next 2 Let's Play series. So, the dry spell of Let's Plays will be over, and we will be moving forward soon, so stay tuned for that. As I mentioned, I want to do a HighFleet stream. Stay tuned for that, and what I mean by that is I should have all that figured out in the next weekly wrap, so where we do the scheduling kind of here, we'll have some content to put in. So, I look forward to that. You should look forward to that. I will see you next time, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.